Okay, so I want our viewers to understand, how did the idea of Clan come to
Mhm.
existence? How was it conceived?
Got it. Okay, Deep. First off, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for taking the time out. To answer your question, the idea was seeded way back in 2018 when one of my co-founders, Naveen, and I, we've known each other for the past 15 years now. We've worked on tons of projects together. And this is back in 2018 when us together, we were working with Tencent, uh, the publishers, when they were here with PUBG. This is before the whole BGMI shift happened. And we were their pan India agency for executing everything consumer led, meets and greets, streamer showdowns, merchandising, all of it. Worked very closely with them, observed how the India market matured over time. Matured, I mean, just caught on fire would be the right term rather than matured, because once we started, we saw it firsthand, right? We were dealing with streamers who used to sit on a 100,000 subscription base on month one, but month three you get in touch with them for another activation or any engagement, they're sitting on a 700,000 subscriber base, and the same in a month's time would touch a million or two. So we saw that growth. It was happening in front of our eyes. Of course, working so much in tandem with a publisher of that nature. We knew about Activision and their initiative with Call of Duty. That was, again, a very potentially big game in the country. We knew Garena was working on Free Fire and it was around the corner. That is when we realized that the market's going to get bigger. It's going to get more serious. Esports will be taken to another level. And we educated ourselves with what the world was up to. Of course, looking at the West was the best example back then. Europe, America, these are matured gaming and esports markets. We took our learnings. We realized how ecosystems have grown over there to the scale that they are today. I mean, they're publicly traded companies, so it's serious business, right? And then we realized that, of course, there's a good opportunity, but we need to build something that can help elevate the growth, fasten the growth, provide a platform for the potential that is going to keep growing over a period of time. And that is when we shifted our focus to understanding the shortcomings at the grassroots level, because building a strong foundation was and is prerogative of anything that you initiate. And we realized that grassroots were riddled with a bunch of problems, be it regarding being connectivity, be it opportunity, be it a equal playing platform. So there were tons of case studies that we went through, spoke to close to 5,000 gamers in this process, and we arrived at a platform that is effective in nature and it's showing now.
Next, I want to understand, being a bootstrapped setup and now transitioning to a funded organization, a funded company. How does that transition work? And from here, where is Clan moving towards?
I mean, the best parallel I can draw to the question of how different is it from being a bootstrap startup to a funded startup is a game itself, right? It's like graduating from level one to level two, where on level one, yes, there were difficulties. Yes, you were just learning the reins. You had lesser equipment or arsenal to back you up. But all of that changes once you have investors on board, right? The amount of faith that they instill, the trust that comes in with seasonal investors of the nature that we have. And I mean, there are legacy investors involved on our cap table now. So it's just about entering level two, higher difficulties, but a larger team, more arsenal, more equipment to fight the battles. And yeah, that's how I look at it, and that's effectively how it's going to play out. And in terms of where are we going to channel these funds, there are very clear directives set at our end. The milestones that we need to hit are in the realm of scaling the platform to a wider audience. We've been fortunate enough to reach 50,000 gamers as at a very, very bootstrap level. We've reached more than 100K users now. And I take a lot of pride in the fact that there's at least one user on Clan who belongs from at least one continent that exists on the planet. So our focus will be on scaling, but while we scale, the idea is also to get that product market fit drilled in, understand our audience a little deeper, a little better, create an avenue and a platform that fulfills all their requirements, solves their problems more than anything else. And yeah, so scaling and getting that product market fit are our clear directives with the fundraise.
My next question to you is about esports. It's
Mhm.
something that we all have been talking about. There have been some major developments recently. It's an industry that is projected to reach 1.4 billion in valuation by 2026 with
Mhm.
630 million gamers. That's a huge number. It's also important to note that 98.8% of gamers, they are mobile first. I, for one, have started playing Clash Royale recently. It's safe to say it's very addictive.
So one of our co-founders, Prashant, he used to be a professional Clash Royale player. He actually represented NRG Esports based out of LA. So he was one of our case studies as well. He did this back in 2017 when esports as a term didn't even exist in India. It's safe to say that, of course, pockets of it knew about it. But yeah, he used to captain that team as well. You should definitely, you can learn a bunch of tricks from him while you're playing Clash Royale.
So my question is, first of all, how does this upward trajectory play out for not just Clan but also various other esports platforms out there? And secondly, how does Clan plan on utilizing this upward growth?
How will this play out? See, that's the best part about being and operating in the gaming and esports industry in a specifically in a country like India, right? It's happening for the first time. There have been spurts in the past where it's taken off but never led anywhere specific or led anywhere uh, strong, but now we're looking at a very different era. It's here. The part of arrival is done. Now it's the growth. The projections that we see today are, of course, at the growth level. The numbers are right out there, but the scaling of which will be handled with each stakeholder in the industry in a manner that they see it, right? Because it's going to be new for everyone. It's great. It's a very bright future that we look at. The fact that investors are backing the industry, the fact that brands, even non-endemic brands, we're starting to see them being seamlessly integrated in the esports and gaming world. These are all good signs. The numbers are good when you look at them, but when it actually plays out, it's a whole different ballgame. I'm sure everyone who including Clan, every other platform that exists out there. Even the gamers themselves will learn along in this journey of how big things can get, and it's an empty canvas of sorts. So I mean, it'll be fun to see how it gets painted ahead.
Coming back to your funding, right?
Mhm.
It's a 1.7 crore INR funding. I'm sure there'll be more to come in the near future. But as of now, you stated that this funding will be used to expand Clan's gamer community, gain deeper insights into user preferences, and establish a robust product market fit. If you could share a few words on how exactly do you plan on establishing these goals?
For us, raising the amount purely for a scaling purpose is something that we've very categorically charted out. As a bootstrap startup so far, what we've achieved really well is the initial validation from the gamers, building out a product, working very closely to our existing user base. We started from a pool of 7,000. We've reached 100,000. We still ensure on a day-to-day basis that we're communicating with our users, not just through the product, but as a team as well. As an individual, I still interact with a ton of gamers on a weekly basis. We know the need for the product is out there. Now, the idea to start gradually scaling is through community initiatives. We know the area that we're operating in this while if we've just hard nailed on something is the consumer understanding. We know the pain points. We know how the consumers think. We need to scale in a very organic yet mass manner. So we'll devise channels like those, start working with grassroots level communities that we've been so far, play an active part with them, and get to a point where we start seeing the initial shades of a network effect taking place. What will this capital enable us to do is focus on other markets as well while we focus on India and build a product market fit. We know for a fact that we're a product out of India, but there is a global play to it. While the focus remains in India, building that product market fit, we still want to test waters at a global level, figure out what good potential markets are out there, which, of course, as lower hanging fruits, there's Southeast Asia and there's the MENA region. They're both mobile first markets, massive gamer bases. They're very serious about esports. It's a similar culture that we've seen grown in India in the past 2 years being built over there today. So we want to test those waters as well, see how things go that way and move on those fronts.
I want to address the elephant in the room.
Mm-hmm.
BGMI is back for a 3 month trial basis.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we'll see how it turns out. But I want to understand, what does this return mean for,
Mm-hmm.
again, not just Clan, but also the entire esports community in India, and esports platforms as well. Now that it's back, what does it mean?
It's great news, of course. Deep, you'd be amazed with the amount of times I've been asked this question. So I've had that power of just culminating all my thoughts into a few statements. I'll absolutely draw a parallel here when people talk about how critical BGMI is, how does it affect existence of the business around esports and gaming. It's as simple as comparing traditional sports, right? You compare traditional sports played in India for the best example. Comparing cricket to any other sport that exists in the country that we have national teams for is a, a battle that you can't really pick up, right? There has to be a big sport in any nation. And cricket is that for India. The same goes for when it comes to esports. BGMI is the lion stakeholder here, the most number of players, tournaments, engagement. Yes. But what that does is unjustified for the other sports, esports that exist out there. Valorant has a massive culture. Free Fire has a massive culture. Call of Duty has a massive culture. CSGO has a massive culture. We're looking at other games being introduced, like real cricket is in the foray of becoming an esport. Now we're seeing tournaments being done around Pokemon Unite, which is a MOBA title. So there are pockets. The ecosystem is growing as a whole. But one sport will lead it, which cricket does in the traditional nature, BGMI does in the esports realm. But the most fascinating part about BGMI not being in the picture for whatever duration it wasn't, that didn't stop the industry. That didn't stop organizations. That didn't, of course, there was a pause. People had to adapt. People had to figure out different means. But that's what it did, right? It made people realize that we have to be diverse in nature. And everyone's taken it in their stride. Everyone's dealt with it the way they should have. The industry didn't stop. Of course, there was a slowdown probably when you look at it from the outside, but us operating internally know that other sports got the attention that they deserve. And now we stand at a point where it's coexisting. And with time, see, the churn in games is very high otherwise. But even if we look at a global example, look, let's pick US, right? The best market for esports arguably out there. Dota and CSGO still rule the American esports landscape. But that doesn't mean a Valorant and a World of Warcraft doesn't exist. So, or a League of Legends does not exist. They're equally big, if not bigger. That's how it's going to be. A specific sport will lead the space, but that doesn't mean that the industry is reliant or dependent on it. It's the consumer's choice at the end of the day. I mean, it's not about what publisher rolled that game out or who's playing it. It's the consumers, it's the gamers who decide. They have the eventual power.
When it comes to government policies regarding the entire gaming industry, I know in the eyes of the government, it is still widely an umbrella term and there is still work to be done. What do you feel? Are we on the right path? Is there more to be done?
Of course, there's more to be done, but yes, we are on the right path. We've reached to a point where it was first about having their notice, right? Getting in their notice, getting that attention. We've done that. With the formation of the AVGC wing, other government bodies also actively looking into this space. That is a win in our books. Of course, now they're actively looking at this space. The next battle that we're currently fighting is the differentiation under e-games, that macro umbrella that we exist under. A little victory on that path and that front did come with the recognition of esports as a sport and not as a game or any other category that casual games or real money gaming is thrown under. So again, that was a victory. We're of course on the right path. These are clear indications for the next battle that we are currently fighting and will continue to do so is the differentiation. Even with the taxation policy that you just mentioned, 28% is justified, fair. See, there are some things in a democracy that only the government can lay down, and anyone and everyone's responsibility after that is to abide by those. So I'll have very little say in it because it's something that the country lays down as a law and you need to follow. But what I would want in within that is a clear differentiation because when it comes to esports in that under that umbrella there is a clear differentiation. Every esports gamer player earns with a traditional salary. That's their payout. Whatever the prize pools are, whatever is termed as a winning, is what the organizations that they play for eventually make money off of because they are the ones who invest in the gamers by paying their salaries, by facilitating them with a boot camp, living facilities, all their costs are covered. That's the organization's investment, and the organization's takeaway is from the prize pool. But what the gamers do in between is legitimately play a sport professionally and earn a salary. So taxing that at a 28% is absolutely unfair. And that is something that we need to sort of put the spotlight on when it comes to taxation policies and esports specifically. But otherwise, just falling under the tax realm is a big victory in its own, right? They're trying to standardize it. They're trying to formalize the entire industry and the whole vertical of gaming and esports. So yes, we're on the right path. But of course, we'll fight our own battles along the way to get to a middle ground where everyone is fairly treated more than anything else.
All right, fair enough. Um, Lastly, I want to understand going forward in
Mhm.
2023, we're already half the year is done, but going forward in the near future, what will be Clan's key area of focus?
Solving problems. And we've been very clear about it from day one. The mission doesn't change. We're here to facilitate and empower the the absolute grassroots of gaming and esports. Provide a level playing field, become that pool, that community where the potential future of esports, not only at an India level, but also at a global level, comes out of. We're talking about not only the gaming talent or the content creation talent, but we're a platform that focuses on the third largest and fastest growing subset of uh, individuals who want to build a career in gaming and esports using traditional skills and abilities. Today on Clan, there are designers who are actively seeking work in the sports and gaming space where they interact and figure out their potential opportunities. There are writers who run pages that absolutely give out news and updates about what's happening in gaming and esports in India and at a global level. These are future journalists. This is someone in the future, a deep from the future of the future. Well, we're talking about people on Clan who are actively looking out to coach other teams. They're always inquiring about those, discovering each other, getting those opportunities. Solving problems is exactly what we're going to be focusing on. We figured out the three large cohorts that we need to take head on when it comes to us as a platform and work, uplift, and do better. So, yeah, solve problems. And once we do that, we'll, as in its own, become a large enough community and create that bridge that is virtually non-existent right now of the top tier and the bottom tier coexisting and meeting at a middle ground.